Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Musa Jalloh, and in today's video, I'm gonna be reacting to a video from Jose, and the video is entitled "The Most Broken Economy on Earth." So with no further delay, let's get into the reaction.
Welcome to South Africa. Here it is in all its beauty and diversity. Wait, oh no! I dropped it. It's broken now. I mean, that's not too big of a surprise. It was always the most broken economy on Earth. What do you mean by broken? Well, just so no one gets mad at me in the comments, I mean broken by South Africa having the highest statistical inequality out of any country on Earth, at least according to Gini's coefficient.
That is so crazy though. Like, if you see on this list, like most of the countries that is like so unequal, they are all African countries. They are not all African countries, but they are mostly African countries. That's like really so weird for me.
Is statistical inequality out of any country on Earth, at least according to Gini's coefficient. It is so unequal that the richest 10% of South Africans own around 80 to 85% of the country's wealth, and that's generally not good for a country. But come on guys, the US also has a high inequality and it's still one of the richest countries on the planet, so let's zoom out to get a broader view of South Africa's overall economy. GDP stagnating since 2010. GDP per capita has fallen since then too. Hunger is rising. Inflation is actually fairly low, but we should expect that when unemployment is extremely high. And of course, the massive inequality does no justice. Over half of their exports are dirty material.
This like really so sad seeing this. I really wish like most African countries would like take the time to like process these raw materials. Like they have coal, they have platinum, they have gold. I know like coal you cannot do so much processing of gold. But at least like try to like the gold, the platinum, the iron ore, try to like get like the finished product, start to produce steel and stuff like that.
Well, not dirty, I mean, but from the dirt. Raw minerals and ores which generally need highly expensive equipment, low-skilled labor, and are dependent on ore prices to sell. Places which are reliant on mining usually have high unemployment rates like their neighbor Botswana, West Virginia usually, and Northern Canada, leading to a youth unemployment rate of 66%. Wait, that's 2/3 of all young people. That seems ridiculously high even for mining standards. There has to be some other reason, and there definitely is. South Africa is a dual economy. It's basically two different countries in one. Sounds great, right? Double the product and double the money, baby. Except not. One of their economies is quite rich, monopolizing in fact, owning pretty much all the mining, all the infrastructure, all the capital, and all the wealth. Okay, half of that was about the government and their corrupt state-owned enterprises, and the other half was about the urban rich white population. The other half, or about 80% of South Africa, is much poorer, struggling to access basic housing, water, electricity, education, and stable jobs. It's mainly made of black South Africans who earn on average 3 times less than white South Africans. So how did South Africa even get like...
How are you even gonna go forward from this, Like, how is the country gonna even move forward? Like, I feel like the problem is seems like so grave, like it seems like so big, Like there is no, I don't see how you can like even start to solve that problem now. Oh my God, this is crazy, man.
This, and what is it doing to the Rainbow Nation? Long story short, South Africa did not develop as a native entity. It was a colonial project. It was originally colonized by the Dutch, who were then invaded by the British and pushed over here. Then the British smelled diamonds and minerals and invaded again during the Boer War, all while the natives watched them fight over their land. This new South Africa under the British was usually accompanied by a power struggle between the Brits and Boers, but there was one thing they could agree on. There was no way they would let the native Africans take away their God-given right to this land. At least Cecil Rhodes thought it was God-given. They enacted the Native Lands Act in 1913, which gave the Europeans around 92% of the land, despite only being a fifth of the population, to remove the competition around farming and create a pool of low-skilled, low-wage laborers. And in 1936, they reinforced this with another land act. But come on, guys.
From 1913, I think South Africa, they ended apartheid in like 1994. I'm not sure. But like, no, let me even check to see when they ended apartheid. I'm not quite sure. So like from 1913 to like 1990, So that's like almost 100 years, Damn, that's so crazy, No longer what I feel like it's like so difficult for like the black South Africans, to like really like try to make it out. That's why you see like today they say like most of them they like live really poorly. But that's a long time, man. From 1913,
They had a little bit of heart in them. This time they went from giving the natives 7% of the land to now 13% of it. This power struggle, if you could even call it that, it was pretty one-sided, lasted until the 1940s when it got worse. In 1948, the Afrikaner National Party took power and their new president, Daniel F. Malin, said, "We need to have apartness." Except he said in Afrikaans.
Ons moet apartheid hê.
Do you see that word in the middle? Apartheid. There's the missing clue to why South Africa is so unequal today. Apartheid was a terrible series of acts which was used to essentially make two different countries split based on race. Let's go through some acts. The Population Registration Act made everyone register to their racial group. They made 4 of them that everyone was sorted into: white, colored, Indian, and Bantu. The 4 of them that everyone was sorted into: white, colored, Indian, and Bantu.
I actually, like, for example, how to take like the most famous South African, like Elon Musk, Trevor, and this guy is not South African, but he lived there for a very long time. I think Mahatma Gandhi, and then like Nelson Mandela.
Into. The Group Areas Act created separate physical spaces for these groups. The Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Act and Separate Representation of Voters Act, well, those ones are pretty self-explanatory. Some of the worst acts were the Bantu Education Act, which created poorly funded state-run schools for black South Africans, generally used to teach skills for cheap manual labor, and banned non-whites from university. Enforcing the Lands Act to give the minority the majority of it again, and the Promotion of Bantu Self-Government Act, which created certain Bantu stands that each black South African was assigned to, even if they weren't from there, of which they would be a citizen of and not a citizen of South Africa.
This thing, like, I feel like I have to do more research into like the apartheid situation in South Africa. You literally like come to South Africa, right? You take over the country, but then you say like, you know what? In this country, you that was here originally, you're not allowed to be a citizen of this country. Like you're gonna be foreign in your own country. Oh my God, this is crazy. Like I don't even know what to say.
Acts worked wonders to hold back the majority of South Africans from developing and keeping them in poverty. But let's break from the acts and go to the ad instead. Thanks to Incognito for sponsoring this video. Do you want to fight the man? Not that. Data, education history, data, and fighting pirates, removal, and deals, and watch them do their or ads randomly showing up about my link gave you tons. How do they even get out of that phase? Apartheid was just a pretty racial time in general, banning the majority of South Africans from skilled jobs, education, owning property, public areas, and certain laws and securities. The apartheid economy was based on blocking entry so only the white South Africans benefited, dominating using the white-owned police, government, military, and businesses. Oh, and also high gold, diamond, and metal prices. Yeah, they needed those to stay up to stay dominating. Not really a shocker when the general economy started to stagnate by the late 70s then. When it did, then came the riots. Well, there are always riots and strikes like the 1960 Sharpeville Massacre, but I mean the riots. Capital R. Starting with the Soweto uprising and gradually getting more and more organized. Some white politicians called for petty apartheid, and the UN got more vocal about potentially ending apartheid by now. Pfft, the government didn't care. Then the UN led an embargo on arms to South Africa. Pfft, who cares again? But then in 1985, the US, UK, and UN placed sanctions on South Africa. Tch, who cares? Sanctions on white things like computer manufacturing, steelwork, and loans given to the government, along with capital flight from hundreds of companies pulling out of the nation. What?
That is like really so good. Like people with money, right? If you want to like make them to like make changes, you have to go after their money. I'm not saying like everybody's money is bad. That's not the case. My dream is to like get very rich in the future one day. So I'm not saying like people who have money is bad. But my point is like people who have money, if you go after their money, you will make them do what you want to do.
The perfect storm of recession brought by these sanctions and the Cold War ending made the government a lot more sympathetic to the Soviet-aligned African National Congress, who led the main opposition to apartheid. This sparsely populated part called Southwest Africa was set free in 1990, now called Namibia. The ANC leader who was jailed, Nelson Mandela, was also set free. Most apartheid laws were repealed. Then
I wonder, like, for example, like the Namibians and like the South Africans, I wonder how similar is the culture, right? Do you guys have like the same tribe that is both in Namibia and South Africa? Or is it like really like different group of people? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think I know there is few tribes that's like overlapping in both countries. But I don't really know if like you guys are so similar, like when it comes to like having like similar tribes, like language, food, culture, and stuff like that. No. So if you have any idea, let me know down in the comment section, please.
Referendum asked the people if they agreed with it. They said
Yeah.
yes, and in 1994, everyone was given the right to vote, a new constitution was made, a new flag was made, and Nelson became their first black president, and they all lived happily ever after. Wait, no they didn't. South Africa is still very much broken. If apartheid's goal was to create two different South African societies and economies, it definitely succeeded. But because it succeeded, the modern country has suffered immensely, and it means our story isn't quite over yet. Enough history. Let's talk about right now. Apartheid creating awful inequality is one part of the South African puzzle, but there's still another very important part we're missing. The ANC. Ever since their first win in 1994, they've won every single election since. Not just
But like when it comes to the ANC, right? Do you guys have like different other political parties, or is it like a one party system in South Africa? You know, because I feel like they are like so dominant when it comes to like politics in South Africa. You know, like I don't get it. You know, like imagine like since like I don't know 1990 or 1994. You know, you only had like one party in power the whole time. For me, I feel like that's complacency, you know, like, for me, I feel like that's complacency, you know, like, people need to change, you know, you need to have, like, fresh ideas, you know, the youth need to get into the government, you know, people need to start, like, interacting more with, like, the government and stuff like that, you know, like, it's, like, really so complacent that you have, like, one party, like, in power that long time, you know, it's not like they're doing a good job, actually, you know, based on what I see on the internet, I don't think they're actually doing, like, a good job.
just that, they've won a majority government and the majority of votes every single time in almost all provinces, although slowly are falling off recently. For 30 years, South Africa has essentially been a one-party state. But have they got complacent because of that? Likely. They have one major weakness, and it isn't just these fashionistas heckling them in parliament. Their weakness is corruption, at least tolerating corruption. Despite early attempts to institute anti-corruption measures by Mandela, Mbeki, and then by Ramaphosa, it has always perpetuated itself in South Africa, especially within the ANC SOEs, that's state-owned enterprises. Historically,
Yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like country like South Africa, even they should like, you know, like because I feel like the economy is like pretty modern. It's like pretty high up to standard, you know. So I feel like they should even focus more on like having like private run enterprises. Like being in Norway, I see what it's like to have like a really good state run enterprises. You know, like for example, like the hospitals. But like still, even in Norway, you know, like the private hospital, it's not a lot of them, but like the private ones, you get like a better service, you know. You get your appointment faster, you get your result faster, you know, than like the state-run government, you know. So like imagine in country like South Africa, like I feel like the country might benefit from like privatization, you know, like, but of course with like government oversight, or the government can like have like stakes in this company, but then they don't like run the day to day, you know, because like take for example, you know, again like the Norwegian oil company is called Equinor. The Norwegian oil company is like the government have like a really big share in the company, but I think it's being run privately, you know, or like, or if it's not being run privately, I think like the government don't have like so much to say in the day-to-day run of the company, you know, like it's like they are like pretty much independent, you know.
these were government-run companies used to consolidate the white minority's power and wealth, and non-historically they've done the exact same thing for the ANC elite. Whether they're mining or infrastructure, there's usually a healthy amount of corruption in them. You know, things like diverting the funds going to poor communities' water and electricity to their pockets, not properly maintaining their sites, firing well-trained technical leaders and replacing them with an incompetent family or tribal member, most public and private companies taking bribes, and government officials stealing public funds meant to go to Nelson Mandela's funeral, man. His funeral! That's just disrespect. Then there's the face of corruption in South Africa, Jacob Zuma, president from 2009 to 2018 and inmate from 2021 to 2022, charged with receiving bribes for an arms deal and accused of state looting, profiteering from the wealthy Gupta family, and 18 other counts of corruption. So now, massive inequality.
Back in my country when I was going to school, like many people they like choose to specialize in like political science, international relationship, you know, like this kind of like degrees I'll give like government job, because like many people in Africa, it's not even just South Africa. Many people in Africa when they see like, oh, if you get into a government job, that's like the fastest way you can get rich, because like the corruption is like so rampant. So like that's why many people, they will not focus on the engineering, they will not focus on the IT, they will not focus on like computer science and stuff like that. But everybody want to go and do like political science, they want to do like international relationship, they want to do like business management, they want to do like leadership, and stuff like that. Because people want to work in the government. So I kind of like understand why they say like the ANC is like so corrupt or have a lot of accusation of corruption, because like I know like most Africans, they see like, oh, if I get in the government, that's how I want to get rich, because like many people, if you get a government job, that might be like the only way you're gonna make it. So people will be like, you know what, since I have make it like this, since I've gotten this job, I don't want to go back to where I was before, so let me fill my pockets, and that's really so bad. And then like for example, if they catch that person and then they get fired, a new person come, they'll probably want to do the same thing, because they don't want to go back to how they were living from before.
And a generally corrupt ruling party has led to a whole plethora of issues. Let's go through some, shall we? Electricity. South Africa, once praised for being the most industrialized country in Africa, is struggling to keep its lights on. Guess who owns the one electricity company in the country? Yeah, it's the ANC. They call it Eskom. It's hindered by corruption, incompetent leaders not maintaining their plants, and lack of investment into new power plants has led to power demand far, far surpassing power supply. And now they have to run the grid at 50% capacity. For the average South African, that usually means, oh my lord, the power's back, thank God.
Oh my god, I thought something just happened to my computer, that was like really so crazy.
I was saying, for South Africans, that means daily planned power outages, or load shedding as they say. It's not that bad, guys. It's usually around 2 hours a day, but in some parts they shut off the lights for 12 hours a day. I don't know how much mining or manufacturing or call centering or office computing you can do without electricity. So since their electricity per capita graph has stagnated since '07, so has their product per capita. Doesn't help that South Africa gets 70% of its power from coal, one of the least efficient and dirtiest ways to get it. But investment into some renewables, foreign investment, and some cities privatizing show signs of hope in like a decade when these new plants can actually be made. Infrastructure.
For me, I feel like the electricity situation in South Africa, that's one thing that they really, really have to work on, because like electricity, like if you don't have it, they like really, really slow down your productivity. There's so many things people can be doing, but without electricity, it make it so difficult. And then like businesses, it becomes so expensive for them also to run their business if they don't have electricity. So like that one, the government have to like really, really work so hard on it.
Electricity isn't the only public works project failing. Everything else is too. We also got roads, rail, water, schools, hospitals, damn, even ports. I mean, their biggest export destination was Tambo Airport, not a much cheaper seaport. Their civil engineering organization even gave them the lowest infrastructure rating ever recorded in 2022, with hospitals, schools, paved roads, and water supplies at risk of failure, and railways, unpaved roads, and sanitation unfit for use. Buzzkills. Whether it affects their ability to import and export goods they need or having constant halts on their rail lines, they just can't move their things about. And they can't move their water about either. About 25 to 30% of their entire water supply is lost from leaks in their pipes alone.
25% is lost from leakage, I feel like the problem seems so big, like like normally when you have a problem, right, you can be like, oh, this is like pretty obvious, you should like start solving this problem from here, but like in South Africa situation, man, like I got no idea where you even gonna start from,
Not even including the droughts they constantly face sitting in a fairly arid region. Many cities lack access to running water, usually having a communal tap. Actually, only around 45% of houses do have a tap. The average dam is only filled up around 15% of the way, and poor planning once limited Cape Townians to only 50 liters of water a day. They never hit their day zero, the day they would run out of water, but they got scarily close. Crime. That's enough about corruption. Let's get back to this apartheid-driven inequality instead. From that, collapsing infrastructure, poverty, and chronic unemployment, there has been a steady rise in crime and violence in South Africa. Crime saw a 24% increase in 2022, the largest it has ever been. So let's get some sad stats out the way. South Africa has the third highest crime rate, top 10 homicide rate, number 1 burglary rate, and number 1 rate of rape. As
man, that is crazy though. Like this stats is like really so crazy though. Like but the thing is, right, even though like they have all this problem, like, but still, man, like I feel like it's like so sad for them because like I feel like the country have like so much potential, but then you have like the few bad apples that's like giving the whole country like a really bad name. But this is like really so bad, man.
Jacob Zuma can attest to. Yikes. Pretoria, Durban, and Johannesburg are all top 5 cities by crime rate. Recently, there has also been the lowest young voters sign up and turnout in South African history, besides the whole ban from voting thing. Is this a sign that young people are no longer seeing democratic ways to fix their issues? All of these have led to widespread emigration, some riots, and a friend of mine actually telling me how it's funny that the Zulu and Xhosa might even go to war. It's the unfortunate human condition. Whenever times get tough, the guns come out. Just reminds me of those gangs that live next door to all of us. Segregation. Even though segregation formally ended over 30 years ago, many cities in South Africa are still in effect segregated. Many of these are from huge influxes of mainly black people who were forced to live in Bantustans coming to the cities after apartheid. But they didn't have the resources to live in the urban centers or suburbs, being forced to live in the outskirts, often called shanty towns. These makeshift towns were not built with proper planning for water and electricity.
Man, I don't even know what to say, because like I feel like you cannot like have a country, right, and then like you plan the country, but then you only plan for like a certain part of the country. Also, like the other part, like you don't think about like water, you don't think about sanitation, you don't think about like the basic things, like this is like really so stupid to me, like. But then you put people in this kind of a situation where they have to like live in this inhospitable environment, like I don't even know, man. It's like so stupid.
Services in mind, many not even having access today. Oftentimes, business centers were also not even allowed to set up in the majority black areas, so poverty is endemic. Some of the more famous shanty towns like Soweto make up only around 10% of Johannesburg's total area, but host nearly 40% of its population.
10% of the area of Johannesburg, but hold like 40% of the population. That's a lot. That's like so much, man.
Meanwhile, when we virtually drive in J-Town suburbs, we can see extravagant fenced housing with beautiful courtyards. Yes, these two are the same city. And out in the countryside, it's not much better. Hopefully they don't go full Robert Mugabe, stealing land from farmers and destroying their food supply, killing the nation. Because that's what happened to Zimbabwe. But before I end this video, since this one was so negative, let me say 3 nice things about South Africa. They have a beautiful landscape, they didn't have a race war to end apartheid, congrats, and they made Noel Diesel.
Man, like thank you guys for watching this video. This one was a bit of an eye-opener for me, even though like I really like South Africa, but seeing things like this still make me feel really sad, because I feel like the country have like so much potential, like I feel like it is like I don't know I don't want to say if it's like a model country, but I feel like this like one of the country like most other African countries look up to, but if they're in this kind of a situation, so you imagine how behind Africa it is, like in general, but like thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, remember to like it, comment down below. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.